Welcome to the ABCs of USDA Foods. I'm Alicia Burry, and I will be guiding you through this training today. You understand and acknowledge that the training you are about to take does not cover the entire scope of the program, and that you are responsible for knowing and understanding all handbooks, manuals, alerts, notices, and guidance, as well as any other forms of communication that provide further guidance, clarification, or instruction on operating the program. We're going to start with an overview of USDA Foods, and then we'll talk in depth about the DoD Fresh Program, local grown or farm to school, processing, and direct delivery or brown box. Then we'll go into forecasting and best practices. Let's get started with an overview of USDA Foods. I'd like to know which of the following USDA Foods programs your district currently participates in. You may have heard that we will be transitioning to a web-based supply chain management system in 2023. With that change, there are a couple of terminology changes that you might want to be aware of. The first one is that the term contracting entity will be replaced with recipient agency. So CE now becomes RA. In addition, regular or brown box will be referred to as direct delivery. And farm to school will be housed in the Favors program, and the term changes to local grown. Here are some other terms and definitions that will help you understand USDA Foods. An allocation is the USDA entitlement foods requested by the RA and assigned to the RA for delivery by the contracted warehouse. This amount is based on the total reimbursable lunches served from the previous school year. The commodity rate of assistance is the value of donated food assistance given to states for each lunch served in the National School Lunch Program. Entitlement is calculated by using the commodity rate of assistance multiplied by the number of lunches served in the previous school year. DoD stands for Department of Defense. This is the organization that operates the Favors program. Entitlement is the amount of funds available to recipient agencies for requesting USDA foods. You might also hear this term used as entitlement dollars, planned assistance level, or PAL, or commodity dollars. And Favors stands for Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Order Receipt Program, or system. FDP is the Food Distribution Program. PAL is Planned Assistance Level. TLS is Total Lunches Served. And VPT is Value Pass-Through, which we'll talk about a little bit later. USDA foods are domestically grown foods from farms across the United States that are procured by the USDA for CEs to use in their food service operations. USDA foods are commonly called commodities. When people heard the word commodities, they thought that these products were of low quality. In an effort to avoid this stereotype, the products are now called USDA foods. In fact, these foods are of very high quality and are from the same companies that you would buy from commercially, such as Tyson, Del Monte, and Land O'Lakes. You might occasionally hear the term commodities used interchangeably with USDA foods throughout the training. The program was created in the 1930s to serve two key roles, one of which is to support domestic agriculture markets. The USDA was able to purchase surplus crops to help control market values and support American farmers. The program has changed considerably in recent years and is now a request-driven system. Each year, the USDA compiles food requests from schools throughout the nation and takes bids from the agricultural industry for those requested foods. The second key role of the food distribution program is to support federal nutrition programs. This program can help CEs participating in the NSLP curb the commercial cost of food by providing a variety of nutritious foods that meet the current meal pattern requirements. Nationally, USDA provides support to approximately 100,000 public and private nonprofit schools through the food distribution program. The program only supports about 20% of food purchases for CEs. The CE controls 80% of the food they receive through their commercial purchases. USDA is the federal entity that distributes funds for the food distribution program. TDA, by agreement with USDA, administers the FDP in Texas. TDA has the following responsibilities: monitoring CE entitlement, providing technical assistance to processors and CEs, ensuring program compliance with regulations and policies, and ordering USDA foods on behalf of the CEs. To access more information about the food distribution program, go to squaremills.org/programs/food distribution program. Here you can find policy information, forms, training, and general program information. Public, charter, and private schools, as well as residential child care institutions, or RCCIs, participating in the NSLP are eligible to participate in the food distribution program. The option to receive USDA foods is up to the CE, including CEs that have contracts with an FSMC or caterer. Entitlement represents the value of the food that you receive, and it is not out-of-pocket money. Each year, program participants are allotted an entitlement dollar amount based on total reimbursable lunches served from the previous year. TDA decides how much entitlement is distributed amongst CEs based on information it receives from USDA. Around July 1 each year, USDA issues the commodity rate of assistance. This value is multiplied by the number of reimbursable lunches served in the previous school year. The total value is your entitlement for the school year. TDA updates TXUMPS with the entitlement value, and surveys are completed in this software to request USDA foods. Here is an example of how it can be calculated. Let's say in the previous school year, your lunches served through the National School Lunch Program was 1,000. The commodity rate of assistance was 24 cents. If you multiply that, your entitlement for the school year would be $240. Your entitlement dollars do not roll over from year to year. TDA will prorate the entitlement dollars remaining at the state level from the prior year to all schools no later than November. You should spend all of your entitlement in the year it is earned. In January, TDA issues an estimated entitlement amount for you to allocate. In July, this value changes when TDA receives the new commodity rate of assistance, and then in November, another adjustment is made. Let's take a closer look at the annual cycle of USDA foods. In January, the current meal counts and an estimated rate of assistance are used to calculate an estimated entitlement amount for the new program year. CEs need to complete the food distribution program contract packet in TXUMPS to indicate if they will be participating in USDA Foods Processing, the DoD Fresh program, and/or DoD Farm to School. Once the contract is submitted in TXUMPS, they are then able to make requests to TDA for various USDA foods via surveys in TXUMPS. In March, TDA will close surveys in TXUMPS and generate food requests into truckload quantities to submit to USDA as orders. USDA uses the orders to announce solicitations for bids from industry. This is why the request for food for the upcoming school year starts so early in the year. In June, the DoD Farm to School surveys close. In July, the USDA publishes the actual rate of assistance. This may change the school's entitlement amount that was estimated in January. In September and October, TDA will update the current school year with the actual total lunches served from the last completed school year. The state's entitlement balance gets redistributed using the updated TLS. In November, the USDA reconciles the previous year's entitlement purchases. If there were unspent monies from the previous year, the USDA would roll the balance into the current year, and TDA would distribute the amount to all schools on a fair share basis. These events may increase or decrease your entitlement. We'll review information, benefits, and where to request each kind of USDA food. USDA entitlement foods include 4 different options: direct delivery, processing diversion, DoD Fresh, and local grown, which was formerly known as Farm to School. Let's start with the DoD Fresh program. DoD Fresh includes a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables. To participate, you have to opt in. The benefits are that the vendor maintains a high quality standard for all produce. Products are offered in a variety of forms, including whole and pre-cut, and in a variety of pack sizes. Requests for DoD Fresh products are submitted in USDA's favor system. The items are priced to include delivery fees, and prices are cheaper when the item is in season and good quality. Prices rise when the item is not in season and the quality is poor. It's a good idea to develop a relationship with a local supplier. Here, it's Brothers. They can provide you more information about available local products as well as a seasonal calendar for this area. Some of you may be wondering how the Department of Defense became a partner with the USDA. Years ago, the USDA attempted to buy fresh produce for the National School Lunch Program, but when the fruit made its way from the vendor to the contracted warehouse and then to the schools, it was no longer in good condition. The USDA and DoD met at a national conference to brainstorm on how these two agencies could work together to provide fresh produce for schools. It turns out that the DoD has a huge buying power in the produce market because it purchases a lot of produce for military bases and Veteran Affairs hospitals. Currently, the DoD contracts with produce vendors to deliver fresh produce to schools participating in the program. Participants can use a portion of their entitlement to participate in the DoD Fresh program. The DoD Fresh program is different from the USDA Fresh Fruit and Vegetable program. DoD is available in 46 states. It is a one-time distribution by TDA as a fair share percentage. So in TXUMPS, you would simply check the box that you want to participate, and then TDA will send out the entitlement, and then you can subtract that from the rest of your entitlement and spend the rest of it as you would like. In Texas, in school year 2014, DoD Fresh allocation was $20 million. There are several advantages to the DoD Fresh program. The first is consistency. The produce catalog is updated every 2 weeks, and schools can order products each week. The DoD Fresh program offers a variety of produce in different forms, whole, pre-cut, pack sizes. Orders can be made throughout the year, but the greatest variety of produce is usually at the beginning of the school year. DoD Fresh is also easy to order. You simply place your order via the web-based system Favors. DoD ensures that the produce in the program is of the highest quality through produce quality audits. In these quality audits, DoD staff evaluate the vendors, good handling practices, good agricultural practices, and hazard analysis critical control point programs. They also conduct tests of the produce for quality and grade evaluations. The DoD will assign produce vendors to CEs participating in the DoD Fresh program. CEs will also be assigned their delivery date and schedule. CEs will receive 1 delivery per week. Orders must be placed no less than 6 business days before the delivery date. For instance, if you get deliveries on Friday, that order has to be submitted by Saturday. You can order up to 10 days in advance. CEs should try to place DoD orders earlier in the year for more of a variety of fresh produce. DoD Fresh orders must be at least $150 minimum. The produce is shipped directly to the CE. The CE is responsible for counting and verifying the shipment, noting any overages or shortages on the bill of lading, inspecting the fresh produce for quality issues or damages that may have occurred during shipment, and contacting your DoD representative with any questions or concerns regarding the delivery. So how do you know if DoD Fresh is for you? Here are a couple of questions that you can answer to help decide. Do you have a walk-in cooler space? Can you purchase minimum weekly purchase order per site? That's $150. Do you have a climate-controlled warehouse? Do you have a delivery method available? If you answered no to all of these questions, then DoD is not for you. Let's move on to local grown or farm to school. And the new model, local grown, formerly farm to school, will exist in the DoD Fresh program. More funding will be available in favors, and RAs will select products marked local grown. There will not be a local grown survey. The benefits of this is that it reduces warehouse fees, storage, and delivery fees. The product is now 100% free to schools. You're no longer having to pay those delivery and storage fees, and the product will be fresher. Local grown items are 100% from Texas farmers. This is an example of how local grown will be an automatic option when you're requesting foods and favors. You'll see here that the products will be labeled as local grown. The DoD is also a partner in using its vendors to procure locally grown foods for schools participating in the National School Lunch Program. In Texas, we have 4 locally grown products that are available during their peak season for the DoD Farm to School program. These include seedless watermelon, red apples, grapefruit, and oranges. The DoD program has been enhanced over the years based on feedback from program participants. For instance, the watermelons offered used to be of the seeded variety and come in a pack size of 60 pounds. Now the product is seedless and in a pack size of 35 pounds. As previously mentioned, the products offered in the DoD program are available during their peak season. This slide shows the DoD products and their delivery periods. As you can see in this example, oranges are available from October 19th through the week of February 15th. On this calendar, you will also see the pack size and cost per case. The price shown is what you will pay with entitlement dollars at any time during the school year, even if the commercial cost for the program increases. This calendar is available on Square Meals. Okay, now let's dive into processing. Planning ahead is essential to allow enough time to convert a raw product into end product. For example, you would buy apples and they would be diverted and turned into applesauce. Whenever you're doing processing, you must use TDA-approved processors. The benefits include a more cost-effective way of procuring items commercially, and processor discounts for the end product will subtract from your USDA Foods entitlement, and it can reduce preparation time and labor in your kitchens. Your processing requests are submitted in surveys and TXUNPS. Some USDA foods, such as whole turkeys or whole chickens, are more difficult to use and prepare by the CE. Therefore, many CEs have turned to the food processing industry to convert bulk or hard-to-use USDA foods into more convenient and usable end products. In the example shown, a whole chicken can be converted into strips, nuggets, or fajitas by a food processor. CEs can choose to use their entitlement dollars to request both regular USDA foods and bulk USDA foods for further processing. For example, the regular USDA food, ground beef, can be sent to a processor to be converted into beef patties. The CE can also request bulk beef and have it processed into beef patties. Examples of USDA foods and processed end products are shown on the slide. USDA foods must be diverted to a processor in truckload quantities. For instance, 42,000 pounds of ground beef equals 1 truckload. A full truckload of chicken is 36,000 pounds. Trucks are shipped from the USDA to a processor, and USDA pays the shipping cost. To calculate how much entitlement you'll use, multiply the USDA Foods pounds by the USDA food value per pound. For example, if you are sending 1,000 pounds of chicken to a processor and the USDA food value per pound of chicken is 40 cents, it would cost you $400 of entitlement. The value of the product is passed through when the whole chicken is converted into chicken nuggets, and then your out-of-pocket expenses depend on which value pass-through option you choose. Federal law requires that CEs receive the full value of their USDA foods. When processing, this value must be passed through to the CE by the processor. For example, in the previous slide, the USDA food value of the chicken was $400. The processor must credit the CE for the $400 when the chicken is made into chicken nuggets. The method used to credit the CE for the value of the USDA foods is called the value pass-through. In Texas, 3 options for VPT exist: net off invoice, refund option, and direct sale. As a school, you choose which VPT to use. So let's go through those different methods. Probably the most common that you hear CEs using is net off invoice, or NOI. This is also known as indirect discount. NOI allows a processor to use raw USDA foods or their substitutable commercial inventory to produce end products for schools. The end products are purchased through a distributor, such as Labatt or Cisco, for the commercial price of the product. The product is then ordered by the CE, and the distributor invoices the school a net price, which is the commercial price minus the USDA Foods value for the processed end product. The distributor will then request a rebate from the processor for the USDA food value of the processed end product. The refund option is similar to NOI. The only difference is that the school pays the commercial price for the end product and then submits a refund for the processor for the value of USDA Foods. So instead of it going through the distributor, it goes directly to the commercial processor. The direct discount option is used primarily by school districts that are large enough to receive the end products directly at their school, as opposed to through a distributor. Schools are billed the net price for the product. If you're a member of a processing co-op, this process requires approval from your co-op coordinator. Two other processing options are fee-for-service billed by a processor and fee-for-service billed by a distributor. You might hear these options also described as value pass-through. Fee-for-service billed by a processor was the only option used in Texas for many years. With this option, the processor takes the actual load of USDA Foods and produces it into one or more end products for the school. The end product is delivered to the school or to the contracted warehouse. The CE is invoiced a processing fee, or fee for service, which is a bid price per raw pound of USDA food needed to produce the end product. If the end product is delivered to the contracted warehouse, the CE might incur delivery and possible storage fees. Fee-for-service billed by a distributor is a process that takes the actual load of USDA food and produces it into one or more end products for the school. The end product is delivered to a distributor, and the distributor is invoiced the processing fee, or fee-for-service. The distributor delivers the end product to the CE and invoices the fee-for-service price plus delivery service charges. And this processing option is also known as modified fee-for-service. An example is, so let's say you order from Cisco or Labatt. You're only paying the fee and not the cost for the raw product. And this is the case for Tyson beef. Most schools in Texas are too small to divert a full truckload of USDA Foods to a processor, so they join a processing co-op. By joining a processing co-op, schools are able to collectively commit enough pounds to make a full truckload and increase their USDA Foods options. The services of a processing co-op managed by a third-party entity must be contracted through a competitive procurement process. CEs must be able to provide documentation that federal procurement requirements were followed. An interlocal agreement is required for co-ops run by interlocal government entities, such as ESCs or counties. CEs may consult with their own counsel to ensure that their contracts and interlocal agreements with third-party entities ensures access to all records, reports, and documents to ensure rebates, discounts, and other applicable credits accrue to the CE and not to the cooperative. A co-op coordinator will hold meetings with the members, assist schools with committing pounds, submit requests to TDA via TXUMPS, and develop requests for proposals to award commodity bids to processors. You should be aware that additional fees will most likely be present for processing items, including any labor, packaging, storing, and delivery that the processor incurs. So your $1 per pound chicken might turn into $2 per pound chicken after being processed. These associated costs are not covered by entitlement and thus must be covered with cash from RA accounts. It's up to you to determine if this is the most cost-effective option. You will also have to do procurement with these vendors unless you're part of a co-op that is handling that for you, whereas with other USDA Foods, USDA handles the procurement on your behalf. Processing USDA Foods can only be completed with TDA-approved processors. To find out what processors are approved, go to Square Meals, then go to Programs, Food Distribution Program for NSLP, then click on USDA Foods Processing Information. Scroll down to Approved Processors, and then you can click here to open the list. Here's a screenshot of some of the approved processors. You must monitor your inventory and baked pounds using K-12 food service and/or processor link, depending on where you divert the money, to ensure that you're spending down your entitlement and purchasing the correct products. The benefits of USDA food processing include a variety of food items. They meet specifications. They're good for speed scratch preparations. They are the most efficient use of donated food. They increase food safety because the items have already been converted into something that you can heat and serve. It also increases lunch participation, which increases entitlement dollars. All products come with a child nutrition label, if appropriate. If you're considering processing, ask yourself, do I utilize all of my entitlement? Are regular USDA foods popular with the students? So this is the brown box items. Do I have sufficient labor to handle the product in its raw form? Could your staff handle a whole chicken? Is the USDA food in the form I can use in my facility? Is food safety a concern? Here are some other considerations for processing USDA foods. If you don't have a central warehouse or a walk-in freezer or cooler, you can't store weeks worth of food, and you don't have a delivery vehicle, then processing might be the best option for you. Okay, let's move on to direct delivery or brown box. Direct delivery includes a variety of fresh, frozen, canned, and dried fruits and vegetables, meats, cheese, and whole grain products. Many of these products are purchased from Texas companies. Most products are delivered in a finished, ready-to-serve form, which reduces preparation time and labor. Requests for direct delivery are submitted in TXUMPS in annual surveys. Each year, the USDA purchases some ready-to-use products such as canned fruit and canned vegetables that can be prepared on site. These foods are referred to as regular USDA foods or brown box items. Some examples of regular USDA foods include breaded chicken, ground beef, whole grain blend flour, cut up chicken, canned fruits, and canned vegetables. Entitlement foods are foods that utilize entitlement dollars. These include regular USDA foods, foods not sent to a company for processing, processed foods, and surplus foods. Surplus is excess inventory at the contracted warehouse that does not belong to a CE. This will be discussed more in later sections. As USDA foods are allocated to the CE, entitlement dollars will be deducted from the total amount in TXUMPS. Occasionally, the USDA will offer bonus USDA foods. They are provided to the CEs with the understanding that they can be incorporated into meal preparations without waste. Additionally, bonus USDA foods do not utilize entitlement, so this won't subtract from your overall total for the year. Each year, the USDA releases a list of the USDA foods that may be available for the year. This list is subject to change depending on state distributing agency decisions, market availability, and available funding. TDA makes the final decisions about which USDA foods from the list will be offered based on historical demand and CE feedback. CEs can request to add items from the foods available list to the annual survey if it is not already on the survey. Simply email TDA at commodityoperations@texasagriculture.gov. USDA Foods product information sheets, formerly known as USDA Foods fact sheets, are available for many USDA food items. These product information sheets are located on the USDA's Food Distribution Program webpage. In TXUMPS, there are also links to most product information sheets. Each sheet provides basic information that will help a CE make the best use of the USDA food. For example, in the example shown, you can see information on the product, pack size, yield, and nutritional information. The product information sheets also contain cooking instructions and examples of how to use the product. The product information sheets can be used as supporting documentation for an administrative review conducted by TDA. You can find these sheets on the USDA Foods product information webpage, which I will provide on the slide. You can also check for bonus surveys throughout the year. Let's take a look at the weekly commodity bulletin in TXUMPS, and then we'll learn how to place a commodity order.
Select the Food Distribution Program button in the lower right corner. If you have limited access, your screen may move straight to the following page. When you get to this page, be sure to read the notes as they will change periodically. Also, see the current program year at the top right corner of your screen. On July 1st of each year, it will change to reflect the new year. Select Reports. Then select Weekly Commodity Bulletin. On this page, select the appropriate program year. If the option is provided, select your CE name and CE ID if available. Then select Create Report. This is a screenshot of the top portion of the Weekly Commodity Bulletin. Your contact information is at the top left section of the screen, and to the right is your warehouse information. The lower section in the screenshot displays your account status. On the left is your program year entitlement, which can change throughout the year. Several factors affect your entitlement, including changes to the count for total inches served and per meal rate of assistance. Also be aware that leftover entitlement does not automatically roll over from year to year. The remaining amounts from all CEs are combined and assessed by TDA, and if deemed appropriate, may be prorated no later than November and redistributed to all participating CEs. Entitlement usage displays what entitlement dollars you committed and how they were used. The first line is processing reserve used. The next line is processing reserve remaining. Add the two of them together to get the entitlement you initially reserved for processing. The dollar amount for used increases, and the remaining dollar amount decreases as you use this entitlement. We'll talk more about this topic later in the presentation. DoD Fresh entitlement displayed on the next line is distributed by TDA. It is tracked on the DoD Fresh website called Favors, which is discussed in a separate TDA online course. The fourth line, called Entitlement Allocations, displays the value of USDA Foods allocated to you. This amount includes farm to school and regular USDA foods. All these lines add up to total entitlement used. Just below this, you can see bonus allocations and USDA food allocations at no charge. These are rarely used, but the value will display here should there be any. The right side displays your remaining entitlement under Entitlement Balance. The unfilled request displays the value of pending allocations for regular USDA Foods and DoD Farm to School. The dollar amount is in parentheses to indicate it is subtracted from the available entitlement. So in this example, ZZISD has actually used $1,948,391.88 out of the over $2 million in available entitlement. Based on the survey submitted near the beginning of the year, there are $149,727 in the food products that have not yet been allocated to ZZISD. Occasionally, some entitlement may need to be adjusted by TDA, and those dollars would go to admin adjustments. The adjustments are usually small amounts and rarely happen. Entitlement remaining displays what dollar amount in entitlement you have left. Remember, your entitlement may change throughout the year, so the numbers in all three columns may fluctuate. Now let's look at the bottom section of the Weekly Commodity Bulletin. The summary of commodities in the warehouse summarizes all commodities in the warehouse that are allocated to you. Remember those survey items you requested before the school year began? This is where they will show up once allocated to you, usually on Thursdays. As they are delivered and invoiced, TSU and PS will remove them or reduce their quantities from the bulletin. You may also view a summary of commodities by storage type, starting with free storage. All three types of storage display the date the commodity was allocated to you, as well as other identifying descriptors. Warehouse storage for allocated items is free for the first 45 days and is displayed under free storage. Strive to have these products delivered to you within this time frame. Remember, the 45 days do not apply to fresh produce. You need to move fresh produce out of the warehouse with your next delivery opportunity. Short-term storage fees start on the 46th day from when your survey items have been received by the warehouse. Here you can see the actual allocation date for each type of item. Long-term storage fees start on the 181st day after the date of allocation. Storage fees double once commodities hit long-term storage. The section titled Shipments Expected in 3 Months lists all of the USDA foods expected to ship to your warehouse within the next 3 months. These were requested by all CEs serviced by this warehouse, so you may see foods you did not request on your surveys. These foods will not be allocated to you if you did not initially request them in your surveys. At the bottom of the Weekly Commodity Bulletin screen is a button you can select to export your weekly bulletin to an Excel spreadsheet. The spreadsheet will provide weekly entitlement balances that may be requested by your business manager. To obtain the spreadsheet, select Export to Excel and select Open. In a few moments, you will see a spreadsheet similar to this. Although not shown here, the spreadsheet will include the food storage summaries as well as the shipments expected in the next 3 months. Before we conclude, a more in-depth select the Food Distribution Program button in the lower right corner. When you get to this page, be sure to read the notes in the center of the page as they do change periodically. Also, see the current program year at the top right corner of your screen? On July 1st of each year, it'll change to reflect the new program year. Now select Contracting Entities. Then select Delivery Orders. And then select Open Orders. Your CE ID will show up in the top section and in the order search. Select Continue. The upper part of this screen displays your school information. No data available means there are no open orders. Select New Order. The delivery location should default to your school, and the warehouse should default to your servicing warehouse. Select Continue. So this is your online order form. Your school and delivery information are at the top of the screen. Your allocated commodities are on the left side of the screen. Available Current Allocation displays the amount of product allocated to your district and available for delivery. The blank box next to the current allocation, under Allocation Order Quantity, is where you type in the number of items you want to order. Click outside of the box, anywhere you want, and the total order quantity to the far right will display the appropriate number. Available surplus inventory is any extra inventory currently at the warehouse. Surplus inventory is available to all CEs for this warehouse on a first-come, first-served basis. Surplus items use your entitlement. This is the bottom of the order form. See how these ordering codes start with FTS? FTS indicates farm-to-school items. Also, be aware of how many pages exist. In this situation, there are 2 pages. Let's look at the Peaches Cling Diced Extra Light. As you can see, 10 packs were typed into the allocation order box. The total order quantity at the far right side displays 10 as well. Once you've allocated your items, you would select the desired delivery date, which must be more than 48 hours out from the order completion date. Now let's look at a surplus item. 2 out of 31 packs of beef patties have been selected. Surplus items are open to all schools serviced by your contracted warehouse. The entire line disappears from your order form once the surplus inventory is used up by all schools. Keep in mind, though, that every Friday morning, new items may appear as they are released for surplus on Thursday nights. This is a great time to discuss deliveries from your warehouse, so navigate to the next slide. Please note that this slide is not part of TXUNPS.
CEs are responsible for tracking warehouse storage and delivery charges to make the most of entitlement dollars. Using warehouse per case rate to schedule most cost-effective deliveries, and monitoring, tracking, and paying invoices provided by the warehouse on time. Let's take a look at these delivery fees. Scheduling deliveries of your allocated USDA foods is made in TXUNPS, as we just saw. At the start of each school year, the CE will arrange or confirm a delivery schedule with the contracted warehouse. You can find your contracted warehouse in the contract packet as previously mentioned or in the weekly commodity bulletin. In order to schedule the delivery of allocated products, just make sure you complete a delivery order form at least 48 business hours prior to the next delivery date. You will be charged delivery fees and fuel surcharges for your USDA Foods deliveries. The delivery fees are approved by TDA each year and are updated annually. As of school year 2012, a fuel surcharge is added to the delivery cost of USDA Foods. That surcharge will appear on the delivery invoice and it will fluctuate based on fuel prices. Fuel surcharge rates are updated and posted on the TXUMPS message board. The first delivery of the month is based on the number of cases that are being delivered. There is not a minimum number of cases that need to be ordered. The first delivery can be calculated as follows. The number of cases ordered is multiplied by the delivery cost per case, and then the fuel surcharge is added to get the total invoice for the CE. So here's an example. The CE ordered 10 cases. The delivery cost is $3 per case, and then the fuel surcharge is 15 cents per case. So in this example, the CE would just be responsible for paying $31.50. For subsequent deliveries within a month, the 100-mile rule comes into play. So Texas is divided into 7 geographic regions, each with an ideal city. For Region 11, we're located in Region 1, and our ideal city is Dallas. According to the RFP for commercial distribution, the 100-mile rule is applied using one of these ideal cities in these 7 geographic areas. CEs are categorized into 2 sections. Those that are 100 miles or less from an ideal city. For example, San Antonio to Austin is less than 100 miles. Or those that are more than 100 miles from the ideal city. So for example, it's more than 100 miles from Lubbock to Amarillo. For subsequent deliveries within a month, the 100-mile rule determines what fees will be charged to CEs. For CEs categorized as being less than 100 miles from an ideal city, they must pay at least the 20 case minimum rate for delivery, even if the shipment is less than 20 cases. If the CE is ordering more than 20 cases, they would just be charged the actual cost. For CEs categorized as being more than 100 miles, they have to pay for at least 40 cases minimum, even if the shipment is less than 40 cases. However, if the CE is ordering 40 cases or more, they would just be charged the number of cases, the actual cost. Let's look at a scenario. Anytown ISD is a CE that is more than 100 miles from an ideal city. They have 40 cases allocated to them for the month of September, and they're choosing to split this delivery into 2 deliveries, 20 cases each. What would be the total cost of the second delivery if the delivery cost is $5 per case and the current fuel charge is 10 cents per case? Now remember that the first delivery has no minimum. So the CE gets their 20 cases, they're charged for 20 cases, no big deal. For the second delivery, however, even though it's less than 40 cases, they will have to pay for a minimum of 40 cases. So we're going to multiply 40 cases by $5. That's the delivery charge. And then we're going to have to also multiply 4 cases by 10 cents because that's the fuel surcharge, which gives us a rate of $204. Each FTP region has a warehouse, and Square Meals houses all of the resources for that warehouse with webinars, slides, and one-pager snapshots. So again, Region 11 is in Region 1 for contracted warehouses, and you can see here that you have the option of viewing a webinar, looking at the PowerPoint slides, or looking at a one-pager. This is a screenshot of the one-pager for our region and includes links to maps and counties served by the state contracted warehouse, as well as information on delivery rates, storage, and invoicing. There are also 3 types of storage dwell times: the free, short-term, and long-term. Delivery fees, storage fees, and dwell times are contract specific, so it depends on which region you're in. And those fees also vary based on the warehouse. So for the first 45 days, USDA Foods are stored for free, no matter which warehouse you're using. On the 46th day, however, you will start incurring storage fees. Forte Frozen charges $1.25 per case, regardless of whether it's dried, chilled, or frozen. These storage fees are out-of-pocket expenses, and so CE should aim to remove these products from before the 46 days so that you don't have to pay for these. If USDA foods are stored longer than 6 months, then at this point, the private storage rates double. USDA regulations prohibit school inventories of donated foods in excess of 6 months, so you really need to keep an eye on this. Should make sure that you are having your inventory delivered on a timely basis, and especially before that 6-month mark. TDA does monitor inventory in state contracted warehouses, and they will notify you whenever items change from short to long-term storage. Just keep in mind that TDA reserves the right to sweep inventory from you if you have items in excess of 6 months. They might reallocate those to another school. The benefits of direct delivery include the availability of a variety of food items, all of which meet USDA specifications. They're great for scratch or speed scratch preparations, and they're easy to prepare. They provide a blank canvas for your school district to prepare menus, and all of the procurement is done by USDA, so you don't have to do it. Some things to consider when you're looking at brown box is if you have a walk-in freezer and cooler to store these items. Do you have a central warehouse to store a lot of items? Is that warehouse climate controlled? Do you have a delivery vehicle to distribute the items from the warehouse to multiple schools? And are there offerings within direct delivery that you need, and are they cost effective for your district? And have you ever had a large quantity of food expire? Okay, let's take a quick break and then we'll meet back up. Now we're going to do an activity. We're going to get some scenarios for your group, and we're going to figure out how we're going to allocate the different USDA foods for this specific district and their needs. Okay, let's jump into forecasting. In a word, forecasting simply means planning. This is a process that allows you to evaluate all of your resources, project your expenses, determine your needs so that you can figure out which USDA foods will best work for your district. You're going to need to consider your existing inventories to properly forecast. And in order to forecast what is needed and when it will be needed, you need to think about how and why some aspect of the food service might change from one year to the next. For example, are you going to build a new school? Are you going to rezone the district? Have you decided to operate community eligibility provision, which is going to greatly increase your participation? Or are you closing down a school? This is the pathway that you will take for forecasting. So the first step is you're going to create some cycle menus, at least a 3-week cycle. And then you're going to conduct a needs analysis, looking at your food production records, and then your usage reports to track how much you're spending and using over a specific period. You want to also maintain inventory reports because you want to count that on a regular basis so you can make informed ordering decisions. So you're not going to order 60 cases of peaches when you still have 30 in the warehouse. You also want to be aware of what food items are available to you through USDA Foods. Again, TDA is going to determine the most popular items, so we just want to make sure that you can get what you need and you're going to use what's available. Okay, let's talk about cycle menus. If you have a cycle menu that's repeating, you're going to be creating this based on what kind of variety you want, what equipment you have, what labor skills are available, and what your students want. And then you can look at that in terms of what commodity options are available to fit into your existing menu. You're also going to be able to more easily spot trends because it is repeating. You can look at your food production records and your point of sales to see how students choose which food they like. Having a cycle menu also allows you to control cost. You know what money you have available based on the sales reports. And then you also know what your USDA reimbursement is going to be. And then you need to also be aware of your non-food cost. And then you can create a budget. Step 2 is to conduct a needs analysis. So this is looking at your past, your current activity, and then any future planning that you have going on. So in the past means, what do your students like? You need to have some method of getting some student feedback, whether that be through surveys, taste tests, comment cards, focus groups, or all of those. You can find some resources on under NSLP on Square Meals and under Meal Appeal if you're looking for some ideas. use that feedback to adjust your your items ordered in the quantity that you're going to order. So if you get feedback that, hey, we don't like, I don't know, the cheese sticks that are from commodity, then you may not want to order those going forward. When you analyze past records, you're going to look at your food production records. These track your daily participation, your specific food items sold, and then you can look at your number of reimbursable meals as well as a la carte sales on each day. This guides the number of servings you're going to prepare the next time on that cycle, and you can track that through the entire year to give you an idea of how much you need to order for the year. You also want to look at past pricing and availability. Which item is more cost effective? Is it more cost effective to buy beans through brown box, or is it more cost effective to buy them commercially? So maybe you want to move your dollars around and spend it on different commodity items to get the best bang for your buck. Also, you want to make sure that the items that you've been ordering are still available in the coming school year. For current year, you want to look at construction, enrollment, special provisions, and any active vendor contracts you may have. So for construction, are you having some construction right now that's limiting your storage or your equipment access or the way that you're preparing food? So maybe you have a kitchen that's under construction and you are doing some very quick turnaround items, and maybe you're operating a smaller cycle than you normally do. And so when you look at your end results, it's not going to reflect what you normally do or what you're planning to do for the next year. Look at your enrollment. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is there a new subdivision that's opening that's going to increase your student enrollment? And then make some adjustments based on that. If you're going into operating a special provision next year, so we're talking about CEP or Provision 2, and all of your students are going to be eating for free, you can estimate that your participation is going to go up to almost 100%, and that's going to affect the quantity of food that you're ordering. On the other hand, if you are not going to operate a special provision anymore, so you were on CEP and now you're going back to just a regular eligibility situation, then you can expect a decrease in participation, and you'll need to make some adjustments based on that. And then you want to consider any vendor contracts you may have. For the future, do you have any planned renovations? For example, are you going to build a central warehouse that's climate controlled with a giant walk-in freezer? That's the dream, right? If you're going to do that, then that might change how much food that you can reasonably bring into the district. Are there any campuses that are closing, or are you consolidating, you're rezoning? How is that going to impact your enrollment and the types and quantities of food that you need? And then are there any entitlement funding changes? So has your entitlement gone up or down? And remember, that's based on the total number of lunches served. So if your participation is down, you will not be getting as much entitlement as you're used to getting. All right, you also want to look at your food production records. So food production records provide documentation of exactly what is used at each meal, and it can be used as a management tool to adjust your preparation amounts and track your actual usage of food at each site. This is really important. And just a quick overview of a production record. This is the template from TDA. Yours may look slightly different, but you have your planning section and then you have your prepared section. And this is where you really want to look to make sure that this is completed, because it's going to give you the real data that you need for ordering in the future, so you don't over or under order. Next, you want to analyze your inventory reports. So you want to do this on a weekly and a monthly basis. So on a weekly, you want to track your inventory and entitlement balances to assess future needs and buying power. So you're going to check your favors to review DoD and local grown inventory, as well as your warehouse and processing systems. On a monthly basis, you really want to dive into what you're using in terms of your processing pounds. So you can look at those current inventory balances through K-12 food service and or processor link, depending on which manufacturers you're using. And you might even want to have an in-house tracking system to monitor all of that. Step 5 is maximizing your entitlement. TDA does have some tools for you. One is a cost analysis worksheet, which we're going to talk about in just a second. And then there's also these cost analysis checklists, which you can get by using the link below. And they give you information about best practice guidance, so you kind of work through and figure out where it's best to put your money. For the cost analysis worksheet, this is really helpful if you're not sure if brown box is a better value or if your commercial equivalent is a better value. So in the first section of this in orange is really your USDA Foods out-of-pocket expenses. So you're going to put in how much you're spending in terms of storage, delivery, all of that stuff. And then you're going to jump over to the middle section, which is how much you're spending for the commercial equivalent. And then in the third section, it's going to tell you which is the better value, which is cheaper, so you can make a decision on which one to order. You do want to have some backup plans ready. Account for having to procure some of these products commercially, and you want to make sure you're requesting foods with multiple uses so that you don't have a bunch of, let's say, refried beans sitting in your warehouse and you have no idea how to use them. Keep in mind lead time. So what are the manufacturer lead times? How much notice do warehouses require? And what par levels do distributors set? So what is the expected minimum quantities that are required? The sixth step is to request your food. So how do you put all this together? You want your cycle menus. You want to know which products are most cost effective, which foods your students really prefer to eat, how frequently will they be eating those, and then account of whatever inventory you have on hand. So let's take the example of the chicken chalupa. The district has determined that this is a very popular item for their schools. Their students really love it. And so they're going to want to make sure that they're ordering some commodity foods to support it. So the recipe uses the diced chicken. And so they can look back at their previous production records and their point of sales records and see, one, it's a 3-ounce serving for each recipe, and it gives them 1,525 planned servings, which is equivalent to 286 pounds. When they look at their cycle menu, they see that throughout the year, they're going to serve this chalupa 8 times. So they can multiply the pounds by 8 to get the total number of pounds of diced chicken that they need. Next up, they're going to figure out that the case of diced chicken is 40 pounds. So then it's just a matter of dividing the total pounds needed by 40. And then you get 58 cases. Now you can cushion this. If this seems a little low, you can round it up to 60 or 65, whatever makes sense to you, but this gives you a starting point. But don't forget to check your inventory. In this situation, the district still has 13 cases. So maybe they don't really need 58 cases. They need 45 cases. And so then you put this all together. For your chicken chalupa, you need 45 cases of diced chicken. And you're going to keep doing this throughout your menu, looking at different items. Maybe there's another recipe that's popular that also uses diced chicken, and you would have to add to this. Just want to get an idea based on the recipes that you're serving that can use USDA Foods. How much do you actually need? Another way to do this is to pull a velocity report from your distributor, especially if you're looking at processing, because that can show you like how many cases of chicken nuggets did you order for the year, and it can give you an idea of what to order for the next year. All right, let's look at some best practices. You want to make sure that you're being responsible when you're using USDA Foods. And to do that, you want to have practices for receiving, storing, monitoring, and reconciling. Before taking possession of and signing for USDA Foods, you want to make sure that you're inspecting all of the items that you've received. Make sure that you're getting the items that you actually ordered through TXU and PS. Count the number of cases and check for overages or shortages in the order. Check for damages too. Are there any ripped bags, broken cartons, smushed cartons? And then you're going to want to note any shortages or damages on the bill of lading that you're going to receive from the driver. That bill of lading will be given to you. You're going to sign it. You're going to list all of the discrepancies that you have, and then the driver is going to sign it. So again, you're going to want to put any exception to the delivery on that document, and then you're going to notify TDA. If for any reason a truck arrives and it is infested with living animals or insects, or there's any evidence of infestation, do not unload the product. Just refuse the entire shipment and then notify TDA. There is a process of receipting deliveries. So this is just showing your actual quantity and condition of USDA Foods received. For Forte Frozen, that's your state contracted warehouse. That's just requiring you to have that bill of lading and then emailing TDA within 1 calendar day. You can include a description and photos showing the discrepancies if needed. For favors, that's a manual process. So you're going to go in and within 7 days of receiving your delivery and say, yes, I got this item. No, I didn't get this item for each delivery made. What I like to do is as I'm ordering my DoD Fresh for the next week, I'm in there receiving the items from the previous delivery. Safe handling of USDA Foods is essential to prevent foodborne illness, and you are probably already aware of this because you're following a HACCP plan. But just to review, you want to make sure that individuals handling USDA Foods are washing their hands and keeping cooking surfaces clean. You want to keep foods separate to prevent cross-contamination. For example, you're not going to store your raw chicken right above your fresh vegetables. You also want to cook your foods to the proper temperatures. And you want to make sure your cold foods stay at the proper temperatures. All CEs must safeguard USDA Foods after taking possession. The CEs must ensure that they have adequate storage facilities for the amount of USDA Foods requested and accepted. So that's when you're planning to allocate, you're going to make sure you look at that first. And then you should be familiar with and adhere to any state and local health codes that apply to your stored USDA Foods. So your storage facilities should be sanitary, free from animal and insect infestations. They should be maintained at the proper temperatures, and they should be maintained with proper storage protocols. So appropriate ventilation, safe stacking, 6 inches off the floor, that kind of thing. And then you're going to want to make sure that you're rotating your inventory properly so that you don't end up with expired product. TDA and school food authorities must work together to ensure inventory of direct delivery in bulk for further processing USDA Foods is drawn down at an improved rate to ensure that your inventory does not exceed a 6-month supply. Once you've received your items, you can use those third-party tracking programs like Processor Link and K-12 Food Service to confirm which process projects are available and which may need increased usage to bring down your inventory to a reasonable supply. So in December, if you are not close to 50% on your products, that you need to start menuing those items to bring them down, or possibly follow up with your distributor to make sure you're getting the credit that you require based on the products you're using. Again, remember that if you do exceed that 6-month supply, TDA can request a detailed plan outlining how you're going to use these items. And if it continues, they can initiate a transfer of your inventory to other CEs. TDA has created something called the Texas Inventory Management Tool, which you can find on Square Meals using the link below. There is an inventory dashboard that allows you to monitor and track your allocations and shipment and really see at a high level if your inventory levels are too high. So let's just take a look at this quick example here. This is some CE, and they are looking at fruit. So you have all of your products here, and it says over here which category. And this is a processing one. So the person or the company is Peterson Farms. It's probably apples. They started with this much in blue, and this is how much they've shipped. And their in balance is not showing because it is done. They're at 100% usage, so that they know that they have fulfilled this part of what they've selected. And maybe since it's so close in the year, they can order more of this next year because they're actually using this product at a good rate. You also want to reconcile your invoices. Make sure you're getting the value of USDA Foods that you've received, whether it be DoD Fresh, direct delivery, or processing. And if you see a discrepancy, you want to reach out to TDA. If you are a school district that is self-op, meaning you're not contracting with another vendor to manage your child nutrition program, then the steps for reconciling are pretty easy. You're going to monitor your order printouts from all of the different places where you're receiving food. So if you're getting favors, you're going to print these out. TXUMPS, you're going to be looking at your delivery orders shipped. And then for processing, you're going to be monitoring K-12 and Processor Link. So then you're going to reconcile it. So you're going to compare the value you've received to the order printouts and making sure everything lines up. So calculate your sum total value of USDA Foods, including DoD Fresh, and ensure that calculated total value matches the total USDA Foods value received. If you are contracting with a food service management company, you're going to follow that same process, but then you have to take it one step further and review all of your invoices to make sure that the FSMC is giving you a credit for all of the value of your USDA Foods. If you see any discrepancies, you're going to want to address those directly with the FSMC. ESC Region 11 Child Nutrition has created some tools that can help you monitor this, whether you're self-op or contracting with an FSMC. The first spreadsheet has 3 tabs on it, and this is the first tab. This is all about Brown Box. So it has all of the different items you could have ordered on your annual survey, and you can start with your beginning cases, and then any cases you receive in each month, you can adjust your cost per case, and then you can use that case as used to track your inventory to make sure that you are using those items that have come in. The second tab is your processing tracking. So these are all of the items that you could have requested through annual surveys or processing surveys in TXUMPS. And then you can add in your processor name. You won't really have any beginning inventory because that does not carry over. But then you'll add in any pounds that you're using for each of these months and the cost per pound to monitor that. It's a good way to also double check that you are getting credit for that in K-12 and Processor Link. This third tab has the monthly reconciliation report that just kind of gives you a general overview of what entitlement did you start with and where are you at now based on all of the different types of USDA foods you're using. This other image here on the right is a separate spreadsheet we've created to help districts who are working with a food service management company, because this includes all of the different buckets you could be using for USDA foods, as well as a credit column for any credits you're receiving back monthly on invoices from your food service management company, just to make sure that it's a balanced, it's zeroing out. Okay, let's take a look at some reminders and a summary. I want to encourage you to make sure that you're paying your invoices to your state contracted warehouse in a timely manner. And those invoices are for storage and delivery fees. And then if there are any fees for processors and distributors, you're paying those. Most likely that isn't something you're seeing directly, it's just coming on your invoice. But those storage and delivery fees are very important for the warehouses, because for the last 2 years, TDA has reimbursed you for those expenses. So they only get reimbursed if they have been paid. So just make sure that you're keeping track of that. Let's review that ordering timeline again. So in January, you're going to start preparing for your new program year. The contract packet will open in TXUMPS. And at that time, you're going to go in, make sure your information is up to date. You're going to select a little box saying you want to participate in DoD fresh or you don't. And then you're going to put $1 into your processing bucket if that's what you plan to do. Then in February, TDA is going to do the distribution for the DoD fresh entitlement. At that point in time, you then know you can subtract that amount out from your total entitlement and really figure out how you want to divide the remaining money. If you're going to do processing, you'll put some in that bucket. If you're going to do brown box, you can put it in that. You're going to do that allocation by completing the annual and processing surveys in TXUMPS, but you want to make sure you get those knocked out by March, because that's when they close up. In June, the warehouse and delivery and storage costs are updated, because that is when the contract renews. So you'll be able to see that in TXUMPS. And then the farm to school surveys will close in June as well. In July, USDA will publish the commodity rate of assistance. So then your entitlement balance will be updated. So if that commodity rate is higher than last year, your entitlement will go up. If it's lower, it'll go down, or it might just stay the same. And then October, that is when TDA is going to reconcile your total lunches served from the prior school year. And so if you're, depending on your participation, your entitlement may go up or down depending. And then one more thing will happen in November is if there's any entitlement that's sort of rolled over, it doesn't roll over to a CE specifically, it rolls over sort of statewide, and TDA may take that statewide rollover and redisperse it among CE. So you may see a little bit of a gain in that as well. Also, I want to preview the web-based supply chain management system, which is you will be using starting in January 2024. So just a background about this, TXUMPS does not have an upgrade available. It's a pretty outdated system. And so we're wanting something that can better manage our USDA foods. And the system we're switching to is created by and upgraded by USDA. So it very specifically supports USDA foods and can continue to do so in the future. The benefits are, of course, a more sustainable system long-term. It's also streamlined so that it can increase efficiency. So you are communicating directly with USDA. You're not going into TXUMPS and TDA is then transferring that over. So it's just direct to the source. It's transparent, it's real time, you have very accurate tracking, you can see exactly what's happening. And then you can more accurately monitor balances for accounting. Right now, there is a pilot going on in some regions throughout the state of Texas. So they're basically working through all the bugs for us. So when it's time for us to start, it should be pretty easy to use. We're expecting that to roll out in January 2024. So you will not do a contract packet in that school year, but you will do one this year. Don't forget. And then when that does start getting closer to the time for us to use it, we will be providing extensive training to you on how to use that system. So stay tuned. If you're looking for more information on the food distribution program, there are a number of resources you can use. Don't forget to look on squaremills.org. There is an FTP handbook, which you can also find on our website. And you can also read through the ARM Section 21 to learn all about USDA Foods regulations. If you're wanting more training, check out the Institute of Child Nutrition, which has some free online courses you can take. If you want to know more about policy and policy changes, consider joining the American Commodity Distribution Association, which joins together school districts, state agencies, as well as industry, manufacturers, distributors, all of those people to come together and talk about USDA Foods. They have a number of free webinars as well, which might be helpful for you. And then there's the USDA Food and Nutrition Service. So if you're looking for the top regulation, those product information sheets, check this out. And then if you're looking for ideas on how to boost your meal appeal, then you can also go to Square Meals and find some more information about that. Let us know what questions you have. And remember that you can contact TDA by going first to this very specific food distribution program page on Square Meals, which has a lot of information on it. You can also reach out to them by email by emailing commodityoperations@texasagriculture.gov, or you can give them a call at 877-TEX-MEAL. Your ESC Region 11 Child Nutrition Team would also be happy to answer any questions you may have about USDA Foods and entitlement. So please reach out to your specialists. We're happy to help. And thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate talking to you about USDA Foods.